Hello, my name is Mary Ann Cuellar, and welcome to the SouthFair Homebuyer Informational Session, aka Homebuyer 101 with Mac. Today we're going to be studying one of the most vital parts of becoming a homeowner and getting yourself ready, and that's the piece called credit. Believe it or not, credit has been around since the 1800s. Unfortunately, at that time, it was only utilized by businesses, and as businesses increased, it became obvious that a standard to evaluate credit was needed. After a few systems were tried out in the mid and early 1800s, it was obvious that at the end, the data was considered too subjective, as many of the opinions noted racial, class, and gender biases. So, on down the line, let's get into closer to our generation. In 1956, FICO was founded. And FICO stands for Fair, Isaac and Company. So it was founded by an engineer and a mathematician. The engineer was William Beall Fair, and the mathematician was Earl Judson Isaac. The two had actually met while working at a Stanford Research Institute in California. 2 years after the company was created, it was pitched to 50 American lenders, and by 1986, it went public, FICO, and here we are. FICO scores are now used by 90% of the top lenders to assess an individual's credit risk, and even back in 1995, it was already being used by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to determine what American consumers qualified for mortgages at that time. So let's take a look at what the engineer and our mathematician came up with as far as what was referred to as the FICO pie or the Fico graph. And this graph will show you, as it breaks down the pie into certain sections, exactly the character and your credit worthiness, along with other factors that are gauged in setting the available credit that is being offered to you. So there are 5 pieces that are referred to as 5 elements on the graph. The largest one, of course, being payment history, and that basically means creditors are lending you money and they expect to be repaid. Miss a few payments, it's no big deal. It's just if you make a habit of it. And everything is considered part of this cash or part of this repayment. Not just what most people consider payment history to be as credit cards, but it does include public records, lawsuits, liens, judgments, just about anything that's considered derogatory is a part of this piece. The next piece is a 30% piece, which is amount owed. And that one is very interesting and very simple to explain, because basically what FICO looks at is the amount of debt that you have compared to the amount of debt that you were allowed. And just to give you one quick sample of what that means, the golden rule of lenders is for you to utilize no more than 30% of what's been made available to you. So if for some reason you walk into a bank and you get a $300 secure card, which means you're going to give them the $300, they return the card back to you. 30% of $300, even though the $300 is your money, you're developing credit, is $90. So that means that you need to stay at $90 and you need to pay it down, and then if you need it again, you go back in. Now, the other thing that you want to also understand is that there's really no one size fits all in the credit utilization. FICO actually looks at your entire profile and determines if your utilization is in line with other people in similar situations. That's why it's so hard for you to figure out what FICO really does, because there's so many other factors. Since a lower utilization is actually better than a higher one, most experts suggest that you open up several small accounts, run up small bills and pay them, okay? Pay them off completely. So this is one way of definitely enhancing your credit. While it's probably smart to keep your existing accounts open, use them and pay them. Do not get some bright idea that in order to beat the utilization piece that you're going to run out there and get 5 cards at once, and then you're not going to use them, because the credit cycle is like a bicycle. If you don't pedal it once a month and pay, then no action is done and no movement is done and nothing is calculated. The next piece is 15%. That's the length of your credit history. Another simple piece. If you have a long credit history or a long history with a card, perhaps you're still running around with the Visa card that you were provided when you went to college. Now you're 30. Wow, that card has built some wonderful history. And how do lenders look at it? Here's how they look at it. They figure that if you have sketchy credit behavior after 15 years, it would have surfaced. Credit history, folks, very important. FICO reviews how long you've had each account, when you set it up, okay, and when you last used this account. The FICO system is actually very thorough. Now we're getting down to the smaller pieces of the pie, and that's the type of credit in use. That only counts for 10%. So let's say if you have a couple of credit cards, maybe a retail card, and then you have some type of installment loans, you're making your car payments, some of you, and we'll talk later about how to get your rent also put on your credit report so that it can count for you. So you don't have to have a big array of different credit sources, but if you don't have any credit card history, it's going to bring your score down. You have to have something that you can be paying on, okay, and at the same time not abuse it. And the next portion is another 10%, and that's the end of the pie. If you want to keep your credit score as high as possible, don't open up a number of new cards at once. Historically, people who do that are a big risk, and creditors nor FICO like for you to go out there and then just all of a sudden in 2 weeks you have 5 new accounts open. So please keep that in mind. Also keep in mind inquiries. Inquiries are very dangerous, and that's what you accrue for running around out there trying to apply for credit. I guess the rule would be that if you went somewhere and you were not approved, what makes you think you might be approved somewhere else, they're going to run the same credit, and if they start pulling hard credit pulls, then it's definitely going to hurt your credit score. So let's look at some tips of what can I do to help my credit, because it doesn't look like I'm going to win the lottery and I'm going to be able to pay everything off. One of the things you want to do is you want to treat all of your debt equally. Do not get 5 bills and decide the car payment is more important, and then they turn your electric bill off and you can't see yourself getting ready for work, and your water's turned off, so now we can't even take a shower. All bills equally, pay them all at the same time when they come due. Keep all your old credit cards open. Do not forget the 30% rule, okay? All credit cards open to maintain a longer history. Make sure you pay every bill on time every time. Keep an eye on your credit report. Remember, you can get a free credit report every year. Avoid applying for new credit whenever possible. Remember, that only counts for 10% of the pie. Concentrate on paying off what you have. Make payments in full whenever you can, and if nothing else, work on paying the minimum. I'm a firm believer on paying a little more than the minimum. Even $5 will help. Now, don't forget that creditors are people too, folks. Don't hide. Be forward, be upfront. They're human. Contact them. It's not their company. It's their job to make sure that you don't fail so that they don't fail. So please keep that in mind. And more important than anything, live within your credit means and don't exceed your limits. Also, use boosting services. This is like the latest of these days. Use boosting services. Please go to rentplus.com and work with your landlord to start reporting your rent. All you have to do is pay your rent, and rentplus.com will do everything for you. The other one is creditboost.com. Please do not forget these websites. They will be made available. Creditboost.com actually can help you build your credit because it helps you with your utilities. I think the latest is even Netflix payments can help you. And so what you do is you set up everything on automatic pay, and then everything gets paid automatically early. And so without $900, $1,500, $1,200, imagine how that looks. It's like making 2 car payments. And the fact that you know that you can't pay much later than the first already helps you pay on time. So this is going to be the end of our one portion of credit. We have a lot more to learn. The subject of credit will go on for a few sessions. We thank you today for joining us. SouthFair Community Development in the heart of Fair Park. Come see us. Let us help you decide if renting is not for you this year. Thank you. Please don't forget to check out the description box below that makes available the links that were mentioned in the video. Join us on social media. Please become a follower.